oh, Detroit basketball. It's great. Detroit basketball is really, really, really. How did you put it, Adam? Curing my Lions hangover blues. My Honolulu blues is being cured by the Pistons. It was by the Red Wings as well, but they are really falling out. We are back. We are the Honolulu Blues. As always, I'm Nick. That's Adam, and that is Julius down below. We are here to talk Detroit Lions NFL Combine. I have a fun little game where we have all our unrestricted free agents that are going to be possibly leaving Detroit or coming back in Detroit, and we're going to guess on whether they come back or they leave. We'll also talk a little bit of news. We just had a huge trade in the NFL go down. We're going to talk about if that has impacts on us, even though we weren't involved in the trade. Some guys we cut already, might be cutting, got a lot to talk about. So we're going to jump in, though, with our Detroit sports like we've been doing these last couple shows. Leading us off, we're going to talk about let's just start with the Pistons. 34-27, 6th seed right now, but a half a game out of the 5th seed where the Pacers sit, and 1 game back from the 4th seed, which is where the Milwaukee Bucks sit. And that would, of course, get you a home playoff series, which would just be amazing. Boys, I just want to hear your kind of basically what you're feeling as a Pistons fan right now after winning 7 of the last 8 or 8 of the last 9. Pistons Jack was there for these bunch of games. We brought him from Australia. Julius, let us know, what are you feeling about our Pistons? Are you able to watch any of these games out in Germany?
Not many, if any. I've caught like 2, literally, but I am following post game and highlights heavy.
Right.
And all I got to say is, we back. We back. We back. I feel like we back in Auburn Hills almost. That's almost what it feel like. Bad boys. Defense. Number 1 defense in the league the last month in the NBA. Coaching. JB Bickerstaff got these guys playing hard, tough Detroit basketball. Cade Cunningham. He's a superstar MVP at our doorstep. The only thing that I think that can propel him to that this season is if he wins a playoff series or multiple playoff series, or we go on a run. Next thing you know, Cade is a national superstar. That's what we're talking about in Detroit. And last, attendance. Big time. Little Caesars Arena. Wings as well. We're going to get to them. Big time. This filling up every night. I think the Pistons are top 10 in attendance, 10th maybe, which is big because that place has been empty ever since it opened in the lower cast. Man. So shout out to Pistons fans and shout out to the Pistons.
Love that you brought up the attendance. I wouldn't even thought about that, but you're so right. And last year you could have walked into that game for $3. You know what I mean? Like for free, exactly. And this year we're selling out games. We're bringing people from Australia. It's crazy. Asor Thompson is playing out of his mind right now. A guy who, in my opinion, I was ready to cut last year, rookie year. I was like, no, this ain't it. This was a wasted pick. I cannot believe this. His brother is so much better than him. But a buddy of mine brought up something. They're like the same, except that Asor had a 6-month injury. And so he's just like 6 months behind Amen Thompson. So he's now starting to become what his brother already is. So I'm very interested to see how Asor keeps progressing along with like Ron Holland and these young kids. Michael Beasley leads the league with 244 threes made this year. If he's not 6th man of the year, I don't know what he has to do to get 6th man. If you're going to say Pritchard from Boston is better than him with less threes just because he plays on a better team, I think you're idiotic. You're moronic. Like, I don't even want to hear what you have to say. Cade is 9th right now in the Kia MVP ladder, which is nuts. Just have a single Detroit Piston on that top 10 list. Tobias Harris is finally playing like the money that we paid him to play like. So it's good to see him kind of really getting into it. Adam, anything you wanted to add on to the Pistons?
Yeah, the JB Bickerstaff Monty Williams swap out is insane. It's an absolute, I guess, joke that the betting favorite is Kenny Atkinson by a long shot. He is minus 850. JB Bickerstaff is plus 750. So massive. It's not even like they're close. this blows my mind. I know the Cavs are good. They're the 1 seed. They just came back from a 22-point deficit against the Celtics. That was awesome. Donovan Mitchell, Garland. But you have 2 all-star players. It's not like Kenny Atkinson, went in and rebuilt this team. He inherited 2 all-stars. Evan Mobley, who I'm pretty sure was an all-star last year, and then Jarrett Jack, who's just one of the best, big men, rim protectors, rebounders. So it's like JB Bickerstaff came into the worst team and now has them competing for home field playoff advantage. And I just think that he needs to get more respect. Same with the other guys you mentioned. Malik Beasley, he's plus 170, a little bit closer in odds, and Peyton Pritchard, minus 135. Well, guess what happened the other day? Malik Beasley outplayed Peyton Pritchard. So Pistons pounded the Celtics. And then what it's looking like is they're going to give Cade I call it the MVP, we're sorry you're not an MVP, but you're almost there. And that's the most improved. And a lot of the times, Giannis won it 1 year, Jimmy Butler won it 1 year. You see a lot of these young, soon-to-be superstars starting to win it. And Cade is probably going to win it, but he's the number 1 overall pick. This is who he should be. So I guess he's most improved, but he's more in the MVP tier than the most improved, guy that wasn't really doing much last few years, because we know Cade's could be a legit top 5 player in the NBA. So it's awesome to see what the Pistons are doing. Red Wings, yes, have been pissing me off the last couple games. I thought we would have had a great overtime win again when Cat scored his second goal, and then immediately after we give up a stupid goal. Actually, it was a ref job, that last goal, where I forget who scored it for the Blue Jackets, but the dude just straight up jams his stick into the Wings player's face to get some separation, misses the slap shot, and then gets his rebound and scores. And the rule in NHL is if a player doesn't get significantly injured at that moment or have blood coming off his face, then it's play on, which is the dumbest thing ever, because, face injuries, I feel like sometimes they're hard to draw blood. Sometimes you get whacked in the face, it just kind of swells up. You get a red spot or something. So dumb rule. If you get hit in the face with a stick, there should be some sort of, reparation to that. So
yes, and there normally is. What Adam's referring to, if you guys didn't watch yesterday, was the Stadium Series. We went to Ohio to play in the Horseshoe. The Red Wings did against the Columbus Blue Jackets outside. Looked really cool. Ohio State marching band did their thing on the ice, which I thought was really cool. I honestly did. Obviously it's Ohio, but ultimately Columbus ended up winning. The Red Wings lost on this egregious non-call by the NHL referees. But that's one thing I love about hockey. The fouls that get called, the penalties that get called in hockey are you earned that foul most of the time. You earned that penalty. Whereas opposed to watching basketball and seeing some guy blink in the wrong direction at Giannis Antetokounmpo, and they're just go 3 shots, 4 shots. You're dude, this that's not a foul. Beef Stew gets so many. Beef Stew got a technical 2 games ago against Denver because he ran down the court. He got a foul called him and he just ran down the court, and they were like, what? He's running too fast, dude. Beef Stew, tee him up, dude. We don't like it. And it's just stupid. It's NBA referees have such, they're my ex. You know what I mean? They hate everything and they just want to see the world burn. And it's the NHL refs are just man, dude, that sucks. To me, it looked like Edmondson kind of needs to be stronger. His face needs to be stronger. Don't fall down at that moment in time. I don't know what to tell you. It sucked. It was egregious. We had just scored 2. God, I thought we were going to make a comeback. But the Red Wings, we'll talk about them a little bit here, are 30, 24, and 6.
Still hanging.
Basically 30 and 30. Ooh, what'd you say?
Still hanging. Still in
the playoffs if the season ended today. We did just drop 2 straight to Columbus, who was the team that was chasing us. Coming into Thursday night, we were the 7th seed. We were 3 wins away from Tampa, the 3rd spot in the division. Now we're the 8th seed, and we have a 2-point lead over Ottawa. We're 1 loss and 1 Ottawa win away from being out of the playoffs. The trade deadline is this week. We just traded Ville Husso for future consideration. Do you think Yzerman makes a big splash? You don't even name names like who we would go and get anything, but do you just think that some splash happens with Yzerman in the sense that we're going to buy in to go to the playoffs, or do you think we sell and just forget the playoffs, or do you think we just stay put? Julius?
Yes, I think it's make or break. This trade deadline is make or break for the Wings season as far as how successful they're going to be. We saw last year how they went for Patrick Kane. That kind of didn't work. It looked like it's working, but it didn't work at the moment. They need to actually work at this trade deadline if they want to be successful. The trade deadline for the Wings is make or break. They have problems scoring outside this first line of Casper, Raymond, Larkin, who, speaking of Marco Casper, dude is on a hot streak.
We like him.
I think he got like 15 points in 18 games or something crazy. But Wings, and back to attendance, they're second in the NHL in attendance, total attendance,
Detroit
average
sports,
attendance.
man.
Hockey Town is rocking again. The team just needs to, but coaching has really propelled them to where they are at this point. And I really trust in McLennan, almost like I trust in Bickerstaff and damn near Campbell now. You know, all the coaches kind of coming. AJ Hinch. We got a good group. It's a great time for all Detroit sports right now. Might be a historic time for Detroit sports.
That's true. It's true. We've gone there was like a 10-year period where we were missing the Tigers, the Wings, the Lions, and the Pistons all missing the playoffs on a regular basis.
2016 to 2021, I believe that period
was such an awful stretch for any sports fan.
One Pistons Bucks series that we got swept in.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until go ahead.
We had COVID, which just shut down sports for like a year or two. And it was just like to a point where when COVID was lifted or whatever, the ban was lifted and sports started to come back, I would actively not watch the games because it was my team sucked, dude. I don't care about am I becoming less of a sports fan right now? And you realize it's oh no, it's just because the Pistons and the Red Wings and the Tigers and the Lions all suck completely. But now there's a chance we get all four of them in the playoffs in 2025. Just who would have thought, boys?
The return to greatness was the Lions' 9-8 season when they barely missed the playoffs in Campbell's second season, right?
Yeah.
That was the start.
You're right. Adam, you said this has never happened if all four Detroit teams make the playoffs in the same year.
Yeah, same year.
Wow, dude. I wanna witness that history. I want to be alive for that history. Let's let that.
And it's crazy because we had a 25, 26 year run where the Wings were just boom, 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 just count them in.
And in that time frame, we had the Pistons win a championship or two championships in that time frame. The Red Wings won a championship not the Red Wings. I'm sorry. What am I thinking? The Tigers made it to two championships, and it was because the Lions couldn't do anything. You know what I mean? That's crazy to think about. But regardless, let's keep moving on. Speaking of football, Deebo Samuel just got traded from the San Francisco 49ers to the Washington Commanders for the 5th round pick. Would you have wanted Brad Holmes, Adam, to make that trade, 5th round pick for Deebo Samuel? And after you answer that, do you think that this trade makes Washington even scarier than they were last year when they beat us in the playoffs?
Not really. I think Deebo's got maybe one more good year left. He's getting a little older. He's just does a lot, kind of an injury-prone guy as well. 5th rounder seemed pretty cheap for him, but I know they had to take over his contract, which is quite large. So I would not have want the Lions to, even though it was cheap, I wouldn't want to eat that contract. And if he makes the Commanders stronger, I definitely think, it's good to get Jay Daniels, a rookie, another weapon. They were literally throwing to their Dynamy Brown. Zach Ertz was their number 2 pass catcher. So honestly, anyone would have been an upgrade for that team. Deebo, obviously, a little bit more of an upgrade. But I'm not too worried because it wouldn't even shock me if he got injured and wasn't there for the playoff run. So I think it could be scary in the regular season. I think there's a great chance we do face him. We do play the Commanders in the regular season, so maybe he will be there, maybe not. But either way, I still think the Lions could take that revenge game when it does come.
I definitely have us chalked already for a W in that Washington game. And Debo does not scare me in any way, shape, or form. I think, Adam, you said you think he has like 1 year left in him, one more good year. I don't even think that. I don't even.
I think that's my max. Yeah.
Like, I don't expect him to get over 400 yards a season for the rest of his career. And then I would even going to say, I bet he is injured within the first 5 to 6 weeks. Honestly, it used to be you could get Debo Samuel the ball at the 1 yard line, and then Debo would get the ball to the 10-yard line or more. Like he was just so you couldn't tackle him. You couldn't tackle him. Like that's why he was the best player at the Senior Bowl the first year I went to the Senior Bowl. He was unbelievable. Like won MVP. Like he just could not tackle him. Nowadays, man, you got about one pinky and you can tackle him. Like he isn't. And then not just that, I was very happy that Brad Holmes didn't even go after him because the way he treated Jake Moody, like I don't like Michigan. Yeah. I don't like Michigan kickers. I don't like Jake Moody. I don't like anyone on San Francisco. I could care less if their entire team fought each other in a Royal Rumble. I couldn't care less. I could care less. But the way you act like that, that's the stupidest thing ever. And that made me that's when I went from enjoying Debo's bringing out his thing and being Debo. And like, I was like, dude, it's winning. It's bringing a rocking culture to San Fran. Like he's cocky. That's how you got to be in the NFL. Until that moment. And when I was like, oh, that dude's like out. He is out. And then it's no surprise San Francisco traded him. It will be no surprise when he's out of the league in 2 years. Like that's that. I think we saw the peak of Debo and I think we're done. Julius, do you have anything to say about Debo being traded for a 5th round pick to Washington? Do you think it makes Washington even scarier next year?
It does if he stays healthy and helps, but I mean, he's probably one of the greatest wide receiver running back combos we ever seen. He's really a running back that plays receiver. That's who Debo Samuel is. If they just made him just a running back in San Fran, he could have went for over 1,000 each season. But he just wouldn't have lasted long because ever since he's been at South Carolina, he's been an injury-prone player. And to me, if San Francisco lets go of a washed-up player, you don't pursue that player. So just looking back at the history of players like that, coming from there, they only let players go when they know they're done. So I'm gonna follow Kyle Shanahan's advice, and I know Washington is desperate frauds. I'm gonna say that for the first time on our show. Mm-hmm. Rivalry, I don't care. Commanders are desperate frauds.
I love it, dude. I love it. You know who they kind of remind me of? And
Houston.
Yeah, exactly. He took the word right out of my mouth. Exactly.
They're the Texans of the NFC, desperate frauds, and they're going to show it next season in what's his name, sophomore year, just like C.J. Stroud.
Exactly what I was going to. You literally just took the words out. Like when Jaden Daniels next year has a sophomore slump, and we're all like, "Wait a minute, I thought he was God," and then you're like, "Oh wait, no." Not to say that Jaden Daniels can't turn it around, thus his 3rd year, 4th year, and become a good quarterback, just like C.J. Stroud. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just not. I don't see a Josh Allen coming out of Jaden Daniels. I don't see Jalen Hurts coming out of Jaden Daniels. Like, I don't think he'll ever be what Jalen Hurts is.
And it's crazy. We said Houston, it's so many parallels. They went and they were desperate frauds. They went after Stephon Diggs. Didn't work.
Exactly what I was going to bring up when we were talking about Debo. Yep, exactly. We're thinking very, very alike right now.
Great minds think alike, my friend.
Great minds think alike. We'll keep moving on. Ben Johnson. You guys remember who that is?
Nah, who's that?
Loser.
He's a loser. Yeah, he's a loser. He had some choice words, made a joke. It is what it is, but at Goff's expense, saying that Sewell maybe was throwing better than Jared Goff. I don't really care about what he said, and I don't really care about talking about Ben Johnson. This will probably be one of the last times I bring his name up on our show until we get to Chicago week. But I'm just curious, guys. To me, I don't know. I wonder if you feel the way I feel about it. I was always mad when Ben Johnson left because he went to Chicago, right? I had no problem with Aaron Glenn leaving because he went to the Jets. And that's a huge difference. Like, you go to Chicago, I don't care how good you were with us. And I'm not trying to think anything about the playoff game or anything like that. I just hated that he went to the interdivision rival. Then he says these things, and it's like, Ben, dude, you are poking the lion right now. Like, I don't know why you're doing this, but I wouldn't recommend it. Do you guys feel the same way that I feel, where he is now enemy number one? more than Kevin O'Connell, more than Matt LaFleur, more than the Packers, more than the Vikings. I don't care how bad the Bears are. They took Antoine Randall from us. Ben Johnson's now there poking fun of the Lions. To me, he is now like, I don't want there to be a conversation about when we play the Bears. Should we have a highlight reel, for him before the game? Or what were they saying about Stafford? They were like, you shouldn't boo him. It's like, that's idiotic for Matthew Stafford, but that's just like downright dumb. If you try to say something about that about Ben Johnson, like Ben Johnson needs to be booed out of the building when he comes in, and then just ran over and kicked out of the building when we beat him. But do you guys feel that way, or am I going a little bit too extreme? Do you still feel there's other people out there that we should hate more?
No, Ben Johnson, enemy number one, FTB, fuck the Bears. I think the Bears will reprise their role as the number one most hated NFC North team. The Vikings took a stronghold of that last year.
Indeed.
Very well could still be the fan base / team that just I hate the most. But I think the Bears are going to come in hot, especially with Ben Johnson, Antoine Randall, all that, even JT Barrett. But a couple things on the Ben Johnson comments. One, supposedly he's good friends with Jared Goff, and there's a lot of closed doors where this is, there's just, roughhouse and a couple of friends, jabbing. But it's like the media doesn't know that. Whoever you're talking to, I guarantee you doesn't know that. So when you say stuff like that, even though Goff could be, hey, that's a good one, and not, be worried about it a bit, you get the media talking about it, you get us talking about it, the Lions fans, and it's like it just creates a little ripple effect, which I don't think is good for the Bears. So if you want to piss off Jared Goff, go for it. Number two, I do think that Ben Johnson has now become maybe not like the loser that becomes popular, because he wasn't really like a loser, but like he wasn't at the cool kids table.
Like the nerdy kid who
and now he's like
his glasses off, and now everyone's
yes. And there's been a few TV shows that have done it where like the nerdy loser becomes popular, and it's like the cool kid that leaves his nerd friends behind and hangs out with all the popular kids. And then the end of the episode, the nerdy loser that becomes popular turns back into the nerdy loser. And that is what's going to happen. And not saying that Ben Johnson, was a loser / like just, I guess, a nerdy loser, but we are going to make it so the Lions, we're still the cool kids. You are not. There's a separation. Go back to your little nerdy friends. So
that'll be interesting to see. Julius, any takes on BJ?
I mean, to both of Adam's points, for one, definitely, not only do I hope it pisses Jared Goff off, I hope it pisses Dan Campbell off.
Bullets and
hope Dan Campbell, on a head coach rivalry, man-to-man level, want to stomp Ben Johnson's throat in on the opposite sideline when they play. I really, really do. Like, and to his second point, you're right. And I know this is before Adam's time, I think. But Nick, the movie Nutty Professor?
Of course.
Eddie Murphy, the old one with Jerry Lewis.
Yeah,
listen, that's who Ben Johnson is. That's who Ben Johnson is. He's the Nutty Professor. He's gonna run out of serum in Chicago. It's too windy in Chicago. It's gonna knock it out of his hand when he try to drink it, and he's gonna roll out there looking like the dude back from the Dolphins, back when he was the offensive assistant for the Dolphins. And Dan Campbell is gonna kick his ass out of Soldier Field. I cannot wait.
I know, me neither. I'm glad we're all on the same page, dude. Fuck Ben Johnson, fuck the Bears, dude. Like, I hate him. We're gonna keep moving on. This is taking a little bit longer than I expected, and I love it. Brad Holmes puts any talks of trading for a high-known edge rusher to rest. And then we went and had a ton of formal meetings with a bunch of edge rushers. Actually, I had that in the wrong spot, so let's just pretend I didn't say that. I was gonna read that later. What I meant to read was the Lions release Jalen Reeves-Maybin, which will add around $1.8 million to the $56.2 million in cap space that the Lions already have, along with Zadarius Smith, who is also on the chopping block. We would it would be a $4 million hit in cap and $9 million in bonuses if he's on the roster on March 15th. So I want to talk about both of these guys. How do we feel about Germ being released? Obviously, captain of the team, great special teams player, filled in as much as he could when we needed him, when our team was depleted. Like NFL players personnel, something. I don't know. He's got a bunch of stuff on his list. And then I'm curious on what you guys think about keeping Zadarius Smith, paying that money, or getting rid of him and seeing what else is out there. I'm going to start with you, Adam. What do you think about Germ, and what do you think about Za?
So Germ was an interesting one because this was a guy that was named captain a couple years ago, what made a Pro Bowl through the special teams. It was kind of like a special teams core piece, but special teams I feel like can come and go, and it's not hard to get a good special teams player. Sione Vaki has seemed like he can be that weapon if it's, he's taking returning punts, if he's being the gunner and, try to tackle dudes or whatever. But Germ, 1.8 million. I think all this little money that we're trying to save is going to go towards like a Carlton Davis, or maybe if it's not a Myles Garrett trade, if we did trade for someone, it'll go towards that. I don't think that this will have too big of a ripple effect, but it is interesting. And then I will say, I know the big time defensive end trade talk is off not officially off, but I know we did talk to Myles Garrett a little bit. There is some rumblings that now the Eagles want him, the Commanders want him, and he did just come out and say he's not renegotiating. But I was listening to Adam Schefter on a podcast the other day, and he said, made a great point. A lot of these times these players come out and say, no, we're not negotiating. I want to be traded. And then next thing you know, they get re-signed to an even bigger contract. So it could be all a money thing, but Myles Garrett has tons of money and doesn't seem like it's going this route. So you never know with that. I still think that's a bit of a wild card. I don't think the Lions will end up getting him, but I would say there's probably like a 25% chance he does get traded. I'm just really hoping it's not to the Eagles or the Commanders, because if he did go to the Commanders, that would be a splash I would be concerned about, as opposed to a Deebo Samuel. And then Zadarius Smith, I think he's another guy where it's like, well, if we do cut him, where is this money going? How are we going to use this? Like, we can't just keep this on the roster. We have to use this money. So if we cut him, maybe that $4 million is going straight to Carlton Davis. So that $1.8 million, that's enough to combine those together to make sure Carlton Davis stays, even if he gets a more player-friendly deal as opposed to a team-friendly deal. After seeing the Germ cut, I'm leaning towards that we do let Zadarius walk. It's kind of tough because he came in and was such a team dude, had the chemistry through the roof, was an absolute Detroiter, but his production was kind of off and on. Towards the last few games, he didn't play a whole lot. There was a couple games where he only played, 2 to 12 snaps. So I don't want a guy that's just not really playing a whole lot. Even if we do cut him and, get some young bodies, at least they'll be, playing a lot. And the older you are, the more injury prone you get. So don't need any more injuries. But if we do keep Zadarius, I'm fine with that too.
Okay. All right. So, Julius, where are you thinking on Germ? Where are you thinking on Zadarius? And do you think the Myles Garrett trade is finito?
Well, just going straight to Myles Garrett, it seems from Brad Holmes' recent comments that he is really not that, desperate and fraud-like I just mentioned, of the Commanders, to actually do something that extreme with the team that he's built so far, which I totally understand with Myles Garrett injury history, his age, and his contract. Set aside his Hall of Fame production, those things create too much risk, and I understand. I don't think they go to Myles Garrett, but it's possible because they did inquire to see how much it would be. That was breaking on ESPN not too long ago, but I'm not too. I think they're more focused on the draft than Myles Garrett, or they're more focused on other free agents that we're going to discuss later. Then going to Germ, my man Germ, he's a classic Lion back from the Patricia days. He's been a career special teamer, probably one of the best special team players in Detroit Lions history. He has always been a special teams core player, and that's kind of the reason I think we're moving on from him right now, is because at this juncture of his career, he doesn't bring much value as just a special teams player for what his contract might assume. And his injury, he coming off a really bad, nasty injury that he had to work back from. And he's just a veteran player. I mean, I'm sure it's all respect. I'm not worried. Much respect to Germ. He's a true Lion. And then Who's the third? I almost lost it.
Zadarius Smith.
Zadarius Smith. Also, I could see us keeping him around, but we're cutting him first. There's no way I think we're going with his current contract that we inherited from the Browns into next season. Yeah. He's going to get cut for that contract. The question is, do we bring him back on a new contract or if we just move on? I say the odds lean towards moving on and looking towards the draft and other players, but not out of the question. I say 60% move on, 40% re-sign after we cut. So that's pretty much where I stand on that, and Zadarius Smith as well.
Real quick, here's what Vegas has. So on DraftKings, Myles Garrett next team, Browns plus 130, Commanders plus 320, Eagles plus 320, Bills plus 1,000, and Lions plus 1,200. The Lions were previously at plus 1,000 in that fourth spot. They've now dropped a bit, so maybe they are starting to back out of this. But
I was just about to say I am 100% guaranteed certain that we will not trade for Myles Garrett, and we will not trade for one of the top 5, 10 pass rushers in the NFL. We are not trading for anyone.
What about one of this guy, Cooper Kupp, Denver Broncos plus 300, Lions plus 550 with the second best odds, then Commanders and Patriots at plus 650. So
that's how Vegas makes their money. Vegas is like, oh, let's put an article out that shows Kupp that could be a great spot for the Lions, and then we'll get a ton of people to go put bets on it, and we'll just rake all the cash in. There's no way. There is no way we trade.
Bring the Rams back together.
No, that would be so terrible. That'd be the worst trade that Brad Holmes has ever done. And that would be worse than the one Trinity Benson trade.
Now, I don't think Kupp's going to get traded. I think they're going to cut him, and he'll be free to sign with whoever.
You're crazy, dude. They're making one more push for that Super Bowl. They're keeping Kupp around. He ain't getting cut.
That's also a great point, too. They did just renegotiate with Stafford, and Stafford is for sure going to be a Ram next year. Interesting, though, but something to keep an eye on.
I'm gonna keep an eye on, as always. Vegas always likes to get us talking, always gives us good.
Exactly.
But I'm 0% on if we trade for Myles Garrett, 0% that we trade for pretty much anyone.
Not even like a Dumb and Dumber. So you're telling me there's a
chance? Not even. So I'm telling you, there is zero chance that we trade for Cooper Kupp or Myles Garrett. Chance there. I also think there's 100% chance that we cut Zadarius Smith.
Okay.
And
I agree with that too, actually.
Then lastly, there's 100% chance that I will be sad that Germ is off our team, but forever a Lion. I doubt he even gets re-signed, honestly. There are a couple good special teams players coming out in the draft this year that will be able to fill in. He is going to be around the NFL for a long time, just not a Lion. Love Germ. Let's keep moving on here. I'm moving on. So what I was going to talk about earlier in life was Brad Holmes put all this talk of getting Myles Garrett away, but then went and had formal meetings with a ton of edge rushers and inside defensive linemen and linebackers at the combine. And we all took 4 certain players and just going to talk a little bit about them. Just kind of, if you're not familiar from watching the show on these guys, hopefully we can teach you a little bit about them. It seems like in years past, Brad Holmes likes to draft from the people he interviews at the combine. I think I haven't done the research of the stats, but I bet if you looked, it was like 2 to 4 players every year that we draft, we had a meeting with at the combine. So we took 12 of the edge rushers and linebackers and D linemen that we had a meeting with, and we were going to start going. I'll be the first one to go. And I'm going to start with a guy that was brought up a couple weeks ago when we did our last show by Adam, and it's Jack Sawyer. And I think Jack Sawyer played his way out of me ever even fathoming getting him on my team. And he did great on-field drills. A lot of people were talking about his on-field workouts were really good. He had some slips. And me personally, when I was watching it, he slipped a little bit and was like, going too much and didn't have control of his legs, didn't have the balance that I was looking for when I watched combine. I don't put a ton of stock in the combine, but what I do put a ton of stock in is the measurements. And he came out with the 31 inches and 3/4 arm, which is putrid. It is, and it is like what? Hold on, I have it right here. It is. Let's see if I can find it. The 15th shortest arm ever measured for a defensive lineman since 1999. And I can assure you, the 14 players that were shorter than him all sucked. And the people that had the same arm length, I think there was one person that was like pretty good that I saw. Everyone else was terrible. I don't care how much heart he has, how much grit he has, how much Detroit Lions passion he has. I don't want T-Rex on my team. I don't want a T-Rex on my team. So I give Jack Sawyer a hell no. I do not want the Lions to take a shot on him. And that's pretty much all I really, ever since that, I just like, I'm done with them. So Jack Sawyer, he's off my list. I am going to go over to Julius, see we all got 4 guys. So pick someone and tell us who they are and what you want to say about them.
Well, I'm going to start with my first draft prospect. It'll be linebacker / edge Mike Green from Marshall University. 6'4", 250 pounds. He's a former high school wide receiver. He was a receiver in high school, weighed about $190. And he transitioned to defense in college, bulked up about 50 pounds, and became a dominant sack artist. He led the FBS in sacks last year. He had 17. He started off at the University of Virginia. He was also a high school wrestler, which he was also good at. He ranked in state in wrestling, which makes sense when you look at his pros. He has they say he has a Von Miller like first step. Just relentless motor. His hands from wrestling, just violent, technical, and he really does a good job at getting to the quarterback. Now some things that aren't so great about Mike Green is his size. He's not that bulky. He's kind of pointy. He's not that long. He's kind of stubby. He's not that strong. He's more quick. And so, it could kind of remind you of small school, even though it was FBS at Marshall. He played in the Sun Belt. Kind of gives you James Houston vibes, maybe. Like maybe too big of a project. Will that production translate over into the NFL? But the hype is big because he has such a strong Senior Bowl. But he missed the combine because he's dealing with sexual assault allegations right now. And I don't know if you guys knew that. That's kind of new. It's one of the reasons he skipped out on the combine, so we weren't able to see his full measurements out there. Maybe at a pro day, Marshall Pro Day coming up, but he's getting Mike Green is getting mocked anywhere. He started off in draft season a couple months ago. He was a day 2 pick. Now he is anywhere from 10 to 30. Anywhere from top 10 edge linebacker to he could fall to the lower second round. So we'll see what the sexual assault allegations turn into and what he does at his pro day. But that's Mike Green from Marshall.
I love that. So again, these are 12 guys that we're all going over. All of these had a formal meeting with the Detroit Lions. Just remember that. Adam, we'll go over to you for your first guy.
All right, I can't be wearing this sweatshirt and not bring up the Michigan man, Kenneth Grant. Absolute beast, coming in at 6'3", big dude, 320, 340-ish. If you're a Michigan fan, obviously you know who he is. Even Michigan State fans know who he is. Big Ten fans probably know who he is. This guy would be a perfect replacement for DJ Reader. I think him and Aleem McNeil would just be such a good 1-2 punch right in the middle, clog up those run holes. Both 300-plus pound dudes, and then you get Hutch on one side and then whoever on the other side coming around the edge. Kenneth Grant has had 11 pass breakups in his last 2 seasons, which I do like. Gets his hands up there, deflects the ball. I want a big dude that can, get his hands in there. Was healthy pretty much his entire career, played 14 games first season, 15 games his second season, 12 games his third season. I want to say that's the most you could play for all those 3 seasons, so I don't think he missed a game. 3.5 sacks in 2023, had 3 sacks in 2024, so he's not a big sack dude, but this dude is a run stuffer. He would clog the lanes, like I've mentioned, him and Aleem would be nice. DJ Reader's got 1 year left on his contract. He also is getting older. And then Reader and Aleem are a little injury prone too. Aleem, especially, who's coming off that torn ACL. So to have Kenneth Grant in there, maybe get, some reps in as a young rookie to just get the feel of it, see what it's like, would help out as well. Him next to Reader. And then if, Reader and Aleem, are flip-flopping with injuries throughout the season, you get Grant in there. But if not, he'll be a solid, amazing rotational piece to have a big dude come in, fresh in, the third quarter on second, third down, etc. So Kenneth Grant, I would love to have him. Think he would do well with team chemistry. You're obviously teaming him back up with Aiden Hutchinson, who's familiar with him. So I think that would do, wonders. And I just think he's, a Detroit dude. He's got that grit. He's played the big games, national championship last year, and big time moments against Ohio State. Didn't lose to Ohio State, which I absolutely love as well. So Kenneth Grant, if he makes it to us, I would absolutely love him.
Love to hear that. We'll keep it moving. I'll give it over to a linebacker from Clemson. I'm going to talk about Barrett Carter, who was first team All ACC, finalist for the Butkus Award, finished 4th among all linebackers in the Combine's production score, finished 8th among all linebackers in the Combine's overall score, and basically solidified himself as a top 5 linebacker in the draft. If we see Barrett Carter in the second round and we didn't go linebacker early, then that is something I think we're going to need with the possibility of losing Derek Barnes. We'll see how Rodrigo comes back from injury. Anzalone's a year older. Jack Campbell looks good. That's what I don't want to draft another first-round linebacker. If we get one in the second round, Barrett Carter is a guy we want to be keeping an eye on out of Clemson. He is going to be a star in the NFL. Julius, who's your second guy?
My second guy is going back to Ann Arbor, and we will be looking at Josiah Stewart, edge linebacker out of Michigan. 6'1", 250 pounds, similar size to Mike Green, actually. Also similar profile, to be honest, except he's much slower and not as explosive. Only ran a 4.7 in his 40, which might tick him down a little bit, the draft boards. But he started his career at Coastal Carolina, came from the Bronx, New York, the strong streets in New York. He had 12 and a half sacks as a freshman All-American. That's back when a couple years ago in Coastal Carolina, right around COVID time, they were like top 20. I think they got up to like 16th or 17th ranked in the nation at one point. Yeah. But freshman All-American, transferred to Michigan, production kept up, 17 sacks the last 2 seasons, best game against the biggest teams, Penn State, Alabama. In the Rose Bowl, he's a big gamer, explosive first step, just like I said with Mike Green, just super twitchy off that edge, strong, crazy motor. He's a Michigan guy, so he's known as a quick processor, even like an Aiden Hutchinson type. He gets in on a lot of screens. He disrupts passing and rushing lanes. Not that good in coverage. And his downside, just like Mike Green, is that he lacks ideal size and length that you want in an elite edge defender in the NFL. So that's Josiah Stewart, looking at a late first, early second, right in there. I love Josiah Stewart. I thought he, was a great, one of the best players on that Michigan defense outside of Will Johnson. I wouldn't mind if we stayed at 28 and we got him and he dropped there. I think his NFL comps are like Azeez Olajuwon. I just messed up his name horribly.
I don't know how you say it, but he's the Giant, right?
The Giants edge rusher. These undersized, James Houston, these undersized guys, they're kind of short, stocky, not that fast, but they're twitchy.
Sure.
That's Josiah Stewart, and he comes from Michigan, so we can have 2 Michigan edges. Sounds pretty good to me.
That would be cool. Would be cool. He also had a great Senior Bowl, so shout out Josiah Stewart. He's one of my favorite guys. Adam, who's your second guy?
We got Jihad Campbell from Alabama. Brad Holmes, if you want to, let the Eagles be the Georgia team of the NFL, let's be the Alabama team of the NFL. Let's bring another one in. We have had Brian Branch, Terran Arnold, J-Mo the last 3 years, maybe
Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yeah, Jahmyr Gibbs. That was who else. maybe another guy that I can't think of, but I think those are the other 4 Bama dudes. But regardless, Jihad Campbell, a very, very fast linebacker, clocked in with the 3rd fastest 40 time for linebackers at a 4.52. To show you how fast that is faster than running back from Oregon, Jordan James. That is faster than running back from Iowa, Caleb Johnson. And that is faster than running back from Oklahoma State, Ollie Gordon. 3 solid, dudes that are familiar with college football. He's also ran a faster 40 than wide receiver Tez Johnson. Actually, the same. They both ran 4.52. So very, very speedy. Jack Campbell ran a 4.65, and we all know how fast and explosive Jack Campbell was. So if you get Jihad Campbell, you're getting another fast dude. Terrion Arnold has also advocated for him quite a bit. They're good buddies. As long as, another Alabama player we might talk about in the future podcast, Jalen Milroe. But he's a big dude, got big size and strength, can cover, can get outside, can track down a lot of these speed players, because the NFL is just getting faster and faster each year. I want dudes that can contain the edge, that can, even if, they don't contain the edge, they're fast enough to only give up a 10-yard, run and not a 60-70-yard run to the house. So Jihad Campbell, I think he would mesh well with the Lions, and also with Derek Barnes possibly going with Aaron Glenn to the Jets. We might lose him. Rodrigo, he had a torn ACL too, right?
Yeah.
So tough injury to come back from. It's pretty much Jack Campbell and Alex Anzalone. And Anzalone, he's not getting any younger. So we do need to get some more youth in the linebacker squad. So Jihad Campbell, I'd absolutely love it.
I agree. I would also love it. I don't really want a linebacker in the first round, but that's where you'd have to get him. And it's like, dude, if we did add him, it would be crucial. It would be huge. I do like him a lot. Excuse me. I'm gonna stick at linebackers, but go with a lesser known name. This is a guy out of Minnesota, played for the Gophers, Cody Lindenberg, and he did not participate in the combine. He is coming back from a hernia surgery. He is hoping that he's 110% for his pro day, but he led the Gophers in tackling last year, added a sack, added an interception. This is a guy, if we don't get Jihad Campbell or Barrett Carter early in the first couple rounds, this is a guy that could be there on day 3, 4th round, 5th round. And we have 8 picks this year. We're going to get a linebacker. This guy could be the Malcolm Rodriguez from a couple years ago and be that late round steal that comes in and really just has the grit and heart that whoever our linebacker, Sean Dion Hamilton likes at the linebacker position, and what Calvin Shepard, we have. Our defensive coordinator is a linebackers coach. Our new linebackers coach was a linebacker for the Detroit Lions before he became the linebacker assistant and now linebackers coach, Sean Dion Hamilton. I think we're going to go big on linebackers, and I think our linebackers are going to be our best position next year because of Calvin Shepard promotion to defensive coordinator. So another guy to keep an eye on. This is later round, but we're looking at Cody Lindenberg, linebacker out of Minnesota. Julius, let's go to your third player. And you're muted. Dun, dun, dun.
I had to do it once for the show. Keep everybody awake on it. I'm going to stay at linebacker. I'm going to stay in Detroit, actually, and go Kobe King, Penn State, captain, senior captain, middle linebacker, signal caller, 6'1", 250 pounds. His NFL comp, ironically, is Malcolm Rodriguez. This guy is Detroit born and raised, Cass Tech high school alum, 3-star recruit along with his twin brother, Kalen. His twin brother, Kalen, was actually drafted out of Penn State last year by Green Bay, 7th round. This guy, Kobe, red-shirted, and he went from a red-shirt freshman to a backup special teamer, to a starter, to senior captain, all Big Ten. And so he really progressed throughout his college career. Last year, he had 97 tackles, 8.5 tackles for a loss, and 3 sacks. One of the best middle linebackers in the nation. He's a great run stopper. He had the 3rd best run stopping grade per PFF in college football last year. Hard hitter. That's why he's getting some Malcolm Rodriguez comps. He's a thumper. You look at his highlights. He's violent. He tries to hit you hard, try to get that ball loose. And above all, he's a smart guy, mature. He's a leader. He was the captain of the Penn State linebacker U. And so he's a great prospect. However, tends to be slightly undersized, just like my other prospects on this list, and slow. He declined to run the 40 at the combine, and for good reason. On his on-field drills, there was some talks that he looked slower than a lot of the other linebackers out there. He looked decent processing, which that's what he does well. But if he can't athletically, hang with starters in the NFL, he's going to be looking at getting taken in the 4th, 5th round, probably coming in April. So Kobe King, Detroit kid out of Penn State, who knows, could be the next Rodrigo.
Who knows? Could be the next Germ. You know what I mean? Adam, who's your third guy?
I'm going with Howard Cross, the third, the son of former tight end Howard Cross, who played for the Giants from, I think, it says 1989, 2001, so had a solid stint in the NFL. My one concern with Howard Cross is he's a little bit older. He is a super senior, meaning he has spent 6 years in college. But this could also make for, a more polished guy, a guy that's, ready to go from day one to get in there. He will be 24 come, start of the season around August, turns 24 in July. But this dude played for Notre Dame all 6 years, a high profile program, played the national championship this year against Ohio State, and overall has measured up with, some solid measurements. 6'1", 285, hand is 10.5, arm 32 1/4. Had a vertical jump 29 inches, not too bad for defensive end, and a broad jump of 8.8, which is solid as well. So Howard Cross, just playing on Notre Dame for 6 years, I feel like that helps a little bit. I don't think he only played 4 games his first season. The remaining 5, he did play at least 11 games each season. So it might have been the max, but I think he missed 1 or 2 here and there. But overall, if this dude, 3rd, 4th round draft pick, it's what he's looking like right now. If we get him in the 3rd or 4th, I wouldn't absolutely be opposed. Seems like a guy that, could come in and get some solid reps from day one, as opposed to, be a project. And that's what the Lions are at. We don't want any more projects. We just want guys that we know can give us, just quality reps.
It's very true. That's very true. We all got one guy left, and then we'll wrap this show up. My last guy is going to be Savon Jones, edge out of LSU. Really, really popped off at the Senior Bowl. Could be a round 3 type of draft pick, I guess. Not someone who's getting taken in the 1st round, ultimately. Only did 2 drills at the combine, finished 30th among all defensive linemen with a 33-inch vertical and 22nd among defensive linemen with a 9'11 broad jump. He had 4.5 sacks this year, 8 tackles for loss. Very good bend, very violent hands, but he lets the offensive lineman get in his face more than he should. Later guy, just someone to keep an eye on, Savon Jones out of LSU, edge rusher. I don't know where we're going to get an edge. I would like to think we get edge 1st round. I would like to think we get linebacker 1st round. I'd like to think we get offensive guard 1st round. I wouldn't even mind a cornerback 1st round, depending on what happens with Carlton Davis. So it's like, I don't know exactly when we're getting an edge. And if Brad Holmes thinks that this edge class is deeper than we as fans think, we may see a linebacker 1st, guard 2nd round, wide receiver 3rd round, and then we start getting into our edge rushers and guys that are like Malcolm Rodriguez and James Houston, these guys that we want to, Broderick Martins, like these guys that we take later and hope that come. Who did we take last year in the 6th round? What edge rusher? Do you guys remember what his name is? Wingo, right? Makai Wingo or something?
Makai Wingo, defensive tackle. So it's like Brad Holmes likes to get those trench guys later. I'm starting to realize. At first it was like, oh, Hutchinson, 2nd round, Levi Onzawerke, you know what I mean? But like McNeil in the 3rd round, Broderick Martin in the 3rd round, Rodrigo in the 5th round, Houston in the 6th round, Wingo in the 6th round. I think we get edge guys later, and it's not what fans are going to hate it, but it's just what I think we're going to end up doing. And a guy to keep an eye on is Savon Jones out of LSU. Let's go with your last guy, Julius. Who do you got? I'm going to the ACC conference with Wake Forest point guard, Chris. I'm just kidding. I'm going with Chris Paul Jr., linebacker, Ole Miss, another defensive captain, 6'1", 222, kind of opposite player of Kobe King. He's a coverage guy. He's fast. He's almost safety-like. Some people in NFL circles question if he's really a linebacker or a safety. Kind of what's his name? What's our safety's name? The backup.
Are you talking about like Sione Vaki or Brandon Joseph?
No, not Sione Vaki. The one
who I
who's
was just thinking.
the one who's been
guy.
hurt so much so I can't remember his name. Iffy.
Oh, Iffy Melifonwu. Yeah.
He's very Iffy Melifonwu-ish. Even though Iffy started off as a corner and they thought he was more like a safety, he ended up playing safety. Chris Paul from Ole Miss, he's a linebacker, and they think he might end up being a safety. He only ran a 4.6 40 though in the combine just now. Great length, great burst. His best attributes are in coverage, like I said, and blitzing. That's why I said the Iffy comp, because he was a great nickel blitzer or off the edge blitzer in college at Ole Miss. He's just too small to play linebacker, and he makes a lot of mistakes. He's going to need some polish. He transferred from Arkansas. He got passed up on all SEC schools but Arkansas out of high school, and that took him with a chip out of Georgia. His best game was against Georgia, was against Bama, was against Auburn, was against the schools that passed up on him. And so he plays with that chip on his shoulder. So he might have that grit that Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell looking for, but ultimately he's looking anywhere from day 2 to day 3, third round to fifth round. Linebacker, safety, tweener, Chris Paul out of Ole Miss. My last draft prospect tonight.
Adam, take us home, brother.
This guy's coming from Texas A&M. No, not Shamar Stewart, the speedy defensive end who I had in my original mock.
You and Julius both.
I was funny. I read some of the comments that are like, "Come on, be realistic. Stewart's not going to be there." And I was like,
those are the
It
worst.
wasn't until his combine that he wasn't going to be there.
There is still no guarantee that he will not be there at 28. At last year, if we would have been like, there's no way Terrion Arnold will be falling to 25 or wherever we traded up to get him. People are dumb. People are just dumb. People aren't
with all the offensive talent. Little lack of quarterbacks this year, but definitely some solid offensive players. I wouldn't be surprised if obviously Genty's going to go in the first round, but it wouldn't shock me if we saw another first round running back.
Oh, Hampton is definitely going to go in the first round.
Yeah, Hampton. Maybe then a third, because I was thinking like the Judkins, Caleb Johnson. Maybe they could sneak in from that, 26 to 30. But regardless,
Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley really kind of Josh Jacobs really put the premium back on running backs that aren't by committee. You know what I mean? I think Gibbs and Bijan being so good and being drafted so early, if you have a good enough line, I think we're going to start to see, I think the age of the running backs declining hit its lowest point. We're going to start to see it come back up a little bit. Not all the way up, but a little bit is going to start coming up. So I think you might be right. 3 running backs might not be too spicy of a take.
Yeah, so if that happens, then we could get some solid talent pushed down to us. And even if we make another trade up 2-3 spots, that's all you got to do to get a real dude that slides. But Nick Scarton, defensive end out of Texas A&M. This dude he's kind of giving me some boomer bust. Maybe not bust type vibes, but kind of like a raw project. 20 years old. He will be 21 when training camp starts. So he is very young. 33-inch arms, 10-inch hands, 257. So he's a big dude. Got a 6.4 on his overall prospect grade, which is graded out of 8, not out of 10, which I just found out, which is interesting. So it projects him to be, a plus starter, but some of his comps were being compared to George Karlaftis, who ironically also played for Purdue. Scarton played for Purdue his first 2 years, then transferred to Texas A&M. He really got his breakout and probably his bag last year when he played for Purdue, or 2 years ago, however you want to look at it. The 23 season, he had 10 sacks, broke out, was a stud, then went to Texas A&M and didn't fall off, but didn't have as good of a second season as he did in his third. So, or good season as he did his second. Anyways, but Scarton, he's a solid dude. Has big frame, can get pressure. Played in the SEC, which I do like as well. And another comparison, Trey Hendrickson, that's who Lance Zierlein compared him to on this little article I'm looking at. But overall, it seems like he could be a solid, pair with Aiden Hutchinson, as opposed to where if he doesn't start too hot, we'll have Hutch right there just coming firing off the gate. And then if this dude wants to get hot, weeks 8, 9, 10 and into the playoff run, that's all we need.
As A-OK. Yeah. It is surprising they didn't produce more with Shamar Stewart on the outside along with him. But is what it is. Texas A&M wasn't a great team this year. We were going to do a game where we were going to predict what Lions guys came back to the Lions or leave us. But we will save that for next week when we do a free agent episode. We'll be doing a few free agent episodes over the course of the next 2 or 3 weeks. The March 10th, which is 9 days away, I believe, is when teams can start talking with other players from
8 days.
8 days. It's going to be wild, guys. It's going to get crazy. We are a week away from that. So next week, catch us. We'll be talking about free agents. Adam, why don't you take us out of here, brother?
Yes, sir. As always, check us out on Twitter or X, Honolulu Blues _. Subscribe, like, comment, whatever however you're watching this podcast or listening to it. We appreciate it all if it's YouTube, Spotify, or whatever. Check us out individually at Nick Faber NFL for Nick. And then the fifth top for I totally pointed up thinking he was going to do the inverse. I don't know why. I thought up and down was inverse too. But check out Julius at the fifth top. And, of course, myself at Everyday FFB. Boys and girls, as always, honestly, we might have to add the whole 4 into the group. The Go Lions.
Go Tigers. Go Wings.
Red Wings, Pistons, Lions, and Tigers. Oh, my.
And Lions.
Go Lions.